second challenge the word of God. Only in the footsteps of God will he proceed. Word of God. Word. Proceed in the footsteps of the word.
The word of God. No, Henry. Try not to talk.
The name of God. The name of God. Jehovah.
But in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with an I.
J.
Oh dear.
Idiot. In Latin, Jehovah starts with an I.
Indy remembers in the nick of time that in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah starts with an I. But there's still a problem, because Jehovah isn't really God's name. The story of how we came to think that it was, on this episode of Some Theologica. In the Hebrew text of the Bible, God's name is represented by 4 Hebrew letters, Yud, He, Vav, He, called the Tetragrammaton, or 4 letters, in Greek. The original Hebrew text of the Bible had no written vowels. It was entirely consonantal, with a few consonants doing double duty as long vowels on occasion. But in many ways, reading the Bible was a lot like reading license plates on the highway. You had to supply the vowels yourself. In the 7th to 10th centuries, after the Jewish diaspora, when most Jews had lost a working knowledge of Hebrew, a group of scribes known as the Masoretes, or traditionists, added vowels to the text. Now, the text was considered sacred, so the letters themselves could not be changed. The Masoretes indicated vowels, punctuation, and even notes on how to chant the text as little dots and dashes around the letters. The Hebrew text had become more accessible. But in addition to comprehension, the Masoretic system gave the scribes the opportunity to correct the text. Now, they did tend to believe that the text was sacred and uneditable, but for some reason, it seemed, God had made some typographical errors, writing, for example, her tent when God should have written his tent. You might think that this was simply a scribal error and that you could fix it easily, but the Masoretes had a different solution. They wrote the consonants of the word as it was, but the vowels of the word as it should be. And then they would write the correct consonants in the margin. A little mark would tell the reader, "Don't say this, read it the way we've written it in the margin." This system is called karakativ, Aramaic for what is read and what is written. In effect, the scribes are telling you, read ahalo, his tent, when ahala, her tent, is written. The Masoretes didn't stop with these scribal errors or these flaws in the manuscript of the text. They used this system for reasons of piety. It had become customary to avoid pronouncing the name of God, so as to avoid profaning the name of God. The tradition was instead to say the word Adonai, meaning my Lord, instead. That's why in English Bibles to this day you will often see the word Lord written in small capital letters. But how were the Masoretes going to indicate this practice to the reader? They did it by including the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of Yahweh. So common was this substitution that it was never marked. Every time the Tetragrammaton appeared, it was accompanied by the vowels of Adonai. Some contemporary texts use the vowels of the Aramaic word Shema, which means the name. But this is how a hapless Latin scribe came to transliterate the name of God, as Indiana Jones now knows, as Yehovah, or Jehovah. Reading the vowels of Adonai and the consonants of Yahweh as if they were one and the same word. So no, Jehovah isn't really the name of God, but it is a convenient shorthand for whatever the name is. But perhaps more important than how it's pronounced is what the name means. The form of the Tetragrammaton looks very much like the third masculine singular form of a Hebrew verb. In this case, a verb related to the root verb that means to be. Because we're not 100% certain of the pronunciation, it could mean something like he causes to be, or simply he is. And that can be a comforting thought. For however the name of God might be written, however it might have been pronounced, the Hebrew text reminds the reader that above all else, God is.